Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up. So that's all the books, TV shows and films I consumed in the month of October. Yeah, it's been a while since I last made a video. I think the last video I actually did was the same thing but for September. So, whoops. Maybe I'll do some more videos in November. So, first up, books. I finally finished War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells and Ondina by Frédéric de la Mottefeuille or something like that. One was classic science fiction, the other was sort of classic 19th century romantic fairy tale. Both were okay. Like, War of the Worlds, I found it a bit boring, which kind of, really, alien invasion, that shouldn't be boring. But I don't know whether it's just me and classics, and quite often we just don't go together. And I think I've realised something about that recently, is a lot of classics I don't enjoy are originally in the English language, so when you buy it, it's still how it would have sounded when it was first written. Whereas quite a few classics that I do enjoy are translated classics, and therefore, because they've been translated and you've got a more modern translation, like for example Hjalmar Soderberg's Dr. Glass, that was translated I think in the 60s, so it's got a much more modern vernacular than Dracula. Nice bit of rhyme there, for example. So maybe I just don't like classics unless they're translated classics with a more modern translation, because then it's easier to read. But I don't know what that says about me, really. Or maybe just haven't found a English classic that has fully captivated me. I mean, Jane Austen's okay. Bronte is okay. I mean, Shakespeare's just Shakespeare, so maybe I just haven't found a classic to really rock my world. That's embarrassing. Right, anyway, yeah, so I've been reading those two books for centuries, it would seem. And that's one thing you probably need to know about me, is I am so slow at reading. And, for example, I'm still reading Murakami, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. It's been 2 months since I've touched the book. I'll try and read it in November this month, but I can't say whether I will or not. But what I have been doing sort of to get myself back into the mood of reading, because I don't know, like this year's just been a bit lacklustre on the reading front, so I thought, you know what, let's switch it up a bit, let's go for some short, snappy books. And I think that is just what I need to do right now, is just sort of read lots of small things, because I kind of sometimes get bored with long books, because it's just like it's the same thing for ages and ages and ages. So maybe short snappy books is the way to go for the moment. So the other books that I read this month were The Postman Always Rings Twice by James M. Cain. This is sort of like, I mean, on the front it says it's vintage crime, so this was written in 1920s, and it's set in America. And I mean, I think there's a couple of movies based on this. I know there's a Jack Nicholson one. I've not seen it. And the reason why I did actually read it is because of Jerry Cow by Christian Petzold. And I wanted to see how he changed the novel to fit with, because it's set, I think it's set in East Germany after the reunification. Anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to see how he was inspired by the novel to sort of make his own version of it. And I like that when filmmakers do that, is when they take a piece of literature and rather than adapt it fully, sort of just take inspiration from it and then weave their own story to tell. And I mean, I guess the book's okay. It wasn't phenomenal, but it's like detective fiction is never sort of, I don't know, phenomenal. It's just, it's there to serve a purpose. It's intriguing. You want to find out about the crime and whether the people get away with it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is told from this point of view of a criminal, rather than like the cops investigating it. It's them trying to get away with this scandalous murder. But yeah, it's okay. Oh, right. It was first published in 1934 and banned in Boston for its explosive mixture of violence and eroticism. Oh. But yeah, like it kind of shows the dark side of people, of potentially America. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. It's an okay book. And will I ever read it again? No. Will I probably donate this to a charity shop? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I got it secondhand, so it's on to the next person. Then next I read Doppler by Erland Loe. This is translated from Norwegian, and it tells the story of a man who sort of, I don't know, like almost has a mental breakdown and decides to go and live in the woods just outside of Oslo, and he starts raising a baby elk, but it's quite darkly comical, and yeah, it's just a bit of fluff, really. I would say if you like Matt Haig, then you might like this author and this book, because it just, I don't know, it's that easy sort of reading kind of novel, and there's also like, I don't know, like small little life lessons sprinkled through it, so I kind of got the Matt Haig vibe. I don't know whether that's correct to say, but yeah, I thought this was quite a enjoyable quick read. And then the final book I read this month is Dream Story by Arthur Schnitzler. This is a Austrian classic, and it was published, I believe, in 1926. But strangely, it almost feels like it was written at the end of the 19th century. So I don't know whether that was the vibe that Schnitzler was going for, but it definitely felt like a fin de siècle novel. And this, I don't know whether many people know this, but this story actually inspired Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. And that was the main reason why I wanted to read it, because I just kind of, I mean, I love Stanley Kubrick's movies, and I wanted to read the books behind his films. Yeah, so I read this and I really enjoyed it, and it surprised me. It felt much more ambiguous than the film. Like, there was more sort of, there was less barrier between dream and reality, which I guess is called Dream Story, Traumnovelle, in its original German title. But yeah, like, and I liked the period setting. One thing I do like about the Stanley Kubrick one is it's a modern update, and it's set during like the Christmas period, which is a metaphor in itself. But there's just something about this original period setting that is quite compelling, and I think even though we've already got Eyes Wide Shut, I reckon this could still be made into a film in its original time period, and I would like to see that. And who would I like to see direct it? Jessica Hausner. She's a Austrian director. She directed Amour Fou, which is a period piece, and some of the imagery in that is impeccable. Yeah, it's quite like a dark comedic film. And then there's also Little Joe, which is like a simmering horror film about a flower that can alter your mood and sort of enslave you. So they're quite bizarre movies, and I reckon she would do really wonderful things with this book. Anyway, yeah, so they are the books that I read. Anyway, right, let's move on from books to what should we do next? TV shows. Watched quite a lot of television this month. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not even ashamed of the amount of TV I watched. Like, binged watched so many stuff. First thing I will talk about is The $1 Billion Code on Netflix. It's a German language TV show, and it tells the story of TerraVision, which was a program that was stolen by Google and turned into Google Earth. And blimey, I did not know this. And why don't I know this? Well, Google's not really going to make it easy to access that kind of information, is it? But it was quite a fascinating, eye-opening story, actually. So it takes place during the 90s and then almost present day, and it charts how these two young men that dreamt up this idea and how they made it and then how it was taken from them, and then they sought justice in court to try and get recognised for their work. Yeah, it's good. I think it's like 4 episodes, so it's quite a short little mini-series, but it was quite enjoyable. So if you like sort of, I don't know, like underdog versus massive corporation, a bit of 90s techno music sprinkled in, and an interesting story that you didn't know, check it out. Of course, everyone watched Squid Game recently. It's pretty decent. I kind of found it maybe too comical, which I don't know what that says about me. Like, that obviously it's harrowing at some points, like people die, but there was obvious attempts at comedy. Some of the things just make me laugh maybe a bit too much. Like, even in the first episode when everyone starts panicking and getting shot, like, why was that funny? Why was that funny? And then the other bit, when like the guy was like, oh, let me choose, like, this is the first time I've ever chosen to do something in my life. And then he does, and then he dies instantly. Like, that was just too funny. But yeah, like, some bits were super cringy, like the really rich people, like the VIP bit. I think that sort of killed the mood a bit. So I could have done without that. But on the whole, it was quite good. And also, I don't know whether it was just me, but the dude in the black mask, the frontline man, I knew who that was going to be straight away, because I recognised its voice. Like, I was like, oh my god, that's Lee Byung-hong. And then I sort of just started piecing it together. Oh, he's going to be his brother, isn't he? So some things were a bit too obvious, but it's kind of cool that, like, the biggest TV show in the world isn't in English. Perhaps the best TV show on television right now returned this month, or last month, Succession. Absolutely love that TV show. Like, it's so darkly funny, and everyone is just depraved. There's not a single nice character in it, but like, some of the insults and just the things that happen are just so funny. And I mean, the vibe of it, it's all very, like, I don't know, like, just, it feels like a Shakespearean play or a sort of Greek tragedy because of, like, the whole family dynasty. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I just get that vibe. But yeah, like, it's brilliant. If you've never watched it, please do. Like, it is sensational television. Scenes from a Marriage, the new version. I haven't actually had the pleasure of watching the Ingmar Bergman version yet, because I can't find anywhere to watch it. I think I could watch, like, the condensed movie, which is like 2 hours long, but I want to watch the whole thing. So if anyone knows where I can watch Scenes from a Marriage, like the full length in England, please tell me, because I really want to see it. But, oh, I'm losing my voice. But yeah, so the American version is up to date, and it stars Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac. It's brilliant. It's kind of very bleak. This marriage is toxic, and you see these characters try and navigate it, but they just are so messed up. I mean, it's brilliant acting, brilliant storytelling, but ultimately left me feeling like, oh god, why does anyone bother getting married if it's just gonna end? Like, the fact that most marriages end in divorce now, I think the scale has tipped, that it's like more marriages end in divorce than survive. But then, what's surviving? What's the point of surviving? It could go into a debate of, like, what is a successful marriage, which I think they kind of did critique and explore in, like, one of the first episodes. And that's where it kind of shows the tipping point, that you think that their marriage is strong, but underneath the surface something is bubbling, and it just cracks like a frozen lake, and then, like, one sort of thing can crack and destroy it all. So I thought that was interesting, and yeah, like, imperfect characters are interesting characters. Next, oh yeah, See on Apple TV Plus. Me and my sister Charlotte have been, like, watching this periodically when we've been meeting up. It's flawed, but it's fun, and, like, I really enjoyed sort of the world building of this society that everyone has lost sight, and people have gone back to sort of primitive tribal living, and then along comes 2 children that can see, and, like, that's the beginning of it all. The cinematography is amazing in this. Like, some of the shots of nature is just beautiful, and the action's really, really interesting because obviously you've got warriors who are blind. So one of the first fight scenes was so beautifully shot. Like, there was all about these noises and like people using things around them to sort of move around, and like you'd have people throwing dirt or stones to distract or to be able to find out how close someone else is, and it just really looks amazing on the screen. Some things don't make sense, like why would a queen wear a crown if nobody can see it? Don't know. But talking of the queen, utterly insane. I think she's like up there with Joffrey or Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones, like the insanity. But yeah, it's an interesting world. Like, there's kingdoms, there's little tribes, and it's got Jason Momoa in it, so what other reason do you need to watch it? And then Jiri Sun, which is an ongoing drama, and that is on iQIYI, which is like a Chinese streaming site, but it's a Korean drama, and it stars Jung Ji-hyun and Ju Ji-hoon as mountain rangers on Mount Jiri, and like something weird is going on, so they go around like rescuing people that get stuck on mountains or people trespassing where they shouldn't be, and trying to conserve the beautiful landscape. But there's also like a mystery. Something happens, so there's two different timelines, so there's in 2018 and then 2020, and something happened in between then that's a massive mystery, and the sort of story intertwines and explores that mystery as it goes. There's obviously like a supernatural element to it, which has been explored in the 4 episodes that aired in the end of October. I don't really know what else to say about it, but it's quite interesting. Like, I like both the main actors. Like, Ju Ji-hoon is one of my favourite actors. He's in so many good things, and one example is Kingdom on Netflix, which is zombies in Chostong Dynasty, and it's like a brilliant socio-political sort of examination of class division. Whenever he's in like a TV show or a movie, I will watch it. And then Jung Ji-hyun is like, she's almost like one of the most famous Korean actresses. She's been in loads of dramas like My Love from the Star, Legend of the Blue Sea, and all those kind of things. So I was really quite intrigued to see both of them would bring to this, and so far it's really quite compelling. So yes, they are the TV shows that I've been watching in October, and let's move on to films. I'm going to talk briefly about films because I feel like this has been going on forever. So what did I watch in October? No Time to Die, the last Daniel Craig James Bond film. I thought it was okay. I do this quite often with movies. Like, I really enjoy something when I'm watching it, but then afterwards I'll like pick at it and unpack what I've seen, and then sort of it just goes down a bit in my estimation. But yeah, like it's a bit of fun, and it was, I guess, a fitting send-off to the Daniel Craig era, but it wasn't without its problems. And I would actually say that Casino Royale was still my favourite Daniel Craig James Bond film. Probably the best scene in the whole thing was the scene in Cuba. I don't know, like, and then some of it felt like it was trying to be too funny. It feels like the Marvel effect, like where there's like goofy humour in movies now, like, and because that's a formula that works really well, everyone's sort of replicating it. So yeah, it just felt a bit out of place. But I don't know whether that's me being really picky. What other films did I watch? A bunch of random German films. Probably the best one that I watched was Summer Window with Nina Hoss and the guy that plays Noah from Dark. I can't pronounce his surname. Vaschka? Mark Vaschka? It's almost like a sort of mind-bending time travel kind of romance. Yeah, it's sweet. You should watch it. And like, Nina Hoss is always perfect. June. I don't know how to say it. Dune? Is it June? Because June sounds like June, the month of June. Dune. Denis Villeneuve's June. June. Mixed feelings, actually. I thought I was going to be utterly obsessed with it, but it was brilliant. It was mind-blowing. It was everything I hoped it would be, apart from one thing. It felt too hollow. I've read the first book in the series. I enjoyed it, but I had problems with it. Like, it is quite a dense, tough book to get into. But my favourite part of that book was the beginning. The whole court intrigue and the Dr. Yue, like, being forced to murder the Duke. But in the book you get to know how conflicted he is, and like sort of the way he's trying to navigate it and thinking about it, and obviously that wasn't in the film. And I don't know, it just didn't feel as intimate because of that, because you got deep inside these characters' thoughts and feelings. You were brought closer in, but because the movie couldn't really do that without being a bit cheesy, there was quite a lot of distance, and everything was so massive. Like, I don't know whether it's because I have trouble imagining things in my mind, like I can't see things in my mind. So when I read Dune, it didn't feel as massive as what Villeneuve's vision looked like, and it kind of was a bit jarring for me. Like these massive hulking spaceships. I mean, obviously the sandworms, I imagined that they would be massive. Yeah, so I loved it, but I also, no film is perfect, so maybe that's just the thing that wasn't for me. And then the final film I watched in August. The final film that I watched in October was The Bacchus Lady by Lee Jae-yong, and it stars Yoo Young-jung, who won an Oscar for Minari, and it's part of Mubi's current series called New South Korean Cinema. It's just really intriguing. Like, I love sort of the classic directors like Bong Joon-ho, Park Chan-wook, Hong Sang-soo. So it's like there's a new wave of filmmakers coming to the foray, which I think is always exciting. Like, I must admit, some of my favourite periods in cinema history is when there's something new happening, like the French New Wave, the German New Wave, and now it would appear that maybe there is a Korean New Wave, which is intriguing. And anyway, back to what the actual film is. So Bacchus Lady follows a so-called Bacchus Lady, which is an older prostitute, so she's probably in her 60s, and she sells her services in a park in Seoul. And her life is complicated, but it becomes even more complicated when a young boy comes into her care. Yeah, so it's all about her trying to navigate a difficult career, growing older, and then something else is thrown at her. Like one of her old friends, an old client, begs her to help him die, and then the narrative sort of takes a very swift turn into something else entirely, and debates on euthanasia and whether it's right to help someone die. And I thought it was quite a fascinating film. When you actually look at the Korean title, it is obvious what the film is going to turn into, because the title literally translates to The Killer Woman or Killer Woman. Yeah, it's an interesting look at growing older and a very unusual profession. Yeah, so it's quite interesting in that respect. And that is the end of the video. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. I'll see you later. Bye bye.